Hey everyone, it's me, Sally G. I'm a change facilitator, coach, and I'm the founder of the Women in Progress movement. Welcome to my Free Yourself show. I'm really excited about today's interview because today I get to introduce you to my amazing friend and colleague, Carolyn Coffin from the Eat Real Food Academy. Carolyn has an amazing wealth of knowledge and experience around what it actually takes to create true physical freedom in your life. This show is all about interviewing women who are walking, talking, breathing, and living a true lifestyle freedom, which means true emotional freedom or aspiring for true emotional freedom, and also physical freedom and financial time freedom. So without further ado, I really want to introduce you to Carolyn. She's a mum of two amazing kids. She's a great wife. She is an amazing runner, and her business, the Eat Real Food Academy, is truly changing people's lives. So here we go. Carolyn, thank you so much for being here today. What I'd really like you to start with is, why do you do what you do?
That is a very good question. So about 6 or 7 years ago, I was in the health field. I was a physiotherapist, a personal trainer, a Pilates instructor, a runner, an athlete. I was really a person who people look to for answers, to their own health struggles. But what I felt like I was keeping inside of me is that I really was struggling too. That's what people didn't know. I was struggling too. I may have been kind of the picture of health on the outside, but I was kind of falling apart on the inside. And particularly, I struggled a lot with food. So I knew eating good food was a big part of overall health. And like a lot of people, I think, I thought good food was lots of whole grains and like low fat everything and whatever I wanted as long as I had it in moderation, right? And I also thought that I could kind of exercise away any poor food choices. Like if I'd sort of overdone it on my mom's cookies, my mom's cookies.
Oh, yes, I know your mom's cookies very well.
Or like my grandmother has an equally delicious thing, like baking treat that she makes for us. So like I would overdo it on that one night, and then I'd think, oh, well, I'll just go for an extra long run the next day to make up for it. And that just kept making me hungrier and hungrier for more of those same foods. Or I felt kind of like I deserved it, because of this big exercise session. And I think a lot of people can relate to that feeling, but I felt like I was in what I now call food prison. I didn't know how to get out of food prison. I was like controlled by food. I constantly thought about it, like when's the next meal? And what if I get really hungry when I had to eat every 2 or 3 hours when I was eating like this, because I had this metabolism. I just thought I had a high metabolism, but I had this metabolism that really was fueled on sugar, even though I was trying to make the right choices. And I thought I was doing all the right things. I was trying really hard and it just wasn't working. And I thought the answer was just trying harder. And I really didn't have the energy or the willpower to try any harder than I already was. So I felt really, really stuck, I guess. And sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just I'm just totally resonating with the story that you're telling. I remember when I did my half Ironman, and I was like eating pies. Do you know what like Kiwi and Australian like meat pies are?
Yep.
I was eating like pies, and oh my gosh, I was doing so much training, and I was wondering why I wasn't getting super skinny, like training like 4 to 6 hours a day.
Yeah, exactly. Because you're in that calories in, calories out kind of a mindset, and it is a trap. Like it is a huge trap. And that was kind of, I guess, to finish that story, that is what made me so passionate about what I do now, which is helping to really empower people to make good food choices, to make good exercise, lifestyle, sleep and manage their stress and relate to food differently. That's why it was really born out of my own struggles. So the kind of end of the story to that was that I actually developed such excruciating joint pain
Wow.
in almost like every joint of my body when I was on this kind of eating roller coaster, this sugar up, sugar crash, doing all this exercise, really looking back, all in the wrong intensity zones. It was just a setup for like body-wide inflammation. And I actually thought that I had rheumatoid arthritis, and my doctor thought that I had rheumatoid arthritis. So I was being kind of worked up for that.
In your 30s.
When I was in my early 30s, I had 2 young kids, ages 1 and 3. I was like freaking out, thinking that I was going to be debilitated for the rest of my life, not knowing what this meant, not thinking I'd be able to continue on exercising or working as a physiotherapist. Like, it was terrifying, really, when I let my mind sort of go to like, what does this all mean? And also at the same time, I was kind of like, how did I get here? Like, I'm a health professional. I've gone to school for 7 years. Like, how did I never learn how the food I eat impacts my body and the way that I feel? Like, I really did go to school for 7 years and never took a course on that.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you did physio, but from what I understand, that is actually pretty similar for medical doctors and their training, just in terms of the actual function of the body and nutrition and all of that good stuff, like, isn't really particularly touched on. It's like, well, like, how do you expect people to get well? Like, if you don't understand how the body actually really functions at that level.
Exactly. Or we learn a lot about how to treat inflammation with, in my case, like ultrasound needles or ultrasound and acupuncture needles and things like that. Or doctors may learn, okay, it's this drug or that drug.
Yeah.
But we don't really get into, hey, food actually is medicine, and that kind of was the original, Hippocrates, let food be thy medicine. That is how it all began. And somewhere along the line, it morphed into 7-minute visits and medications being prescribed left, right, and center for which things. So.
And I mean, there is a place for medication in certain circumstances. However, would you say, I mean, is that part of what really drives you to do what you do, like to really kind of get into the root cause of what's going on for people?
Oh, absolutely. Like and again, that rheumatoid arthritis scare that I had, I mean, I was projecting into the future and looking at what my life would be like. I would be taking lots of medication to control pain, and really what I ended up doing, which was just changing my diet to eating more real food, which I'm sure we'll touch on in a little bit, was all the medicine that I really needed. And so it was quite funny. I actually kept the appointment with this specialist who, because it took me 6 months to get in with her. And in that time, that's when I sort of came across all of this information, like, oh my goodness, maybe I'm over consuming sugar, in disguise, of course, like I was eating quote unquote healthy food. But when I really broke it down, at the end of the day, I was eating like 3/4 of my diet was sugar.
Wow.
But it just came in like, oatmeal and healthy cereal, like I'm air quote, like healthy cereal and brown bread and whole wheat lasagna, these types of choices. But so to look at my diet, you wouldn't be thinking, whoa, she eats terribly. You'd actually, and this is what happened, is that a lot of people would say, yeah, she eats really, really healthy. So that's what was so bewildering to me, is like, I'm eating so healthy, I'm trying so hard, I'm doing all this exercise, like, why do I feel so terrible? Why am I hungry all the time? Like, why did my food cravings control me? And so when I made some simple, like really simple switches to my diet, like for example, I would have an omelet in the morning instead of a bowl of cereal with milk and orange juice and a banana, and all of a sudden I could stretch right out to lunch without having to have that 9:30, 10 a.m. mid-morning snack that I absolutely couldn't live without before that. Little things like that. So just more real food, more, clean protein, healthy fat, fiber, in my meal choices. And all of a sudden, a lot of the symptoms that I was having sort of took care of themselves. So I kept this appointment with this specialist to tell her, wow, did you know that real food? Yeah. And she was like, wanted nothing to do with it. Like said, if you had rheumatoid arthritis, you would have to be on drugs. You can't fix that with food. And, so we're all just coming at it from different paradigms, but I really wanted to come at it from an empowering perspective, like what we choose to put on our plate every day and how we decide to exercise and what time we go to bed at night. Like these are things that are 100% within our control.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of people sort of turn that, they give away all their power, you know, to somebody out there who's maybe going to have the answer for them, right? Where and I even felt that as a physio sometimes. I felt like people wanted to come to me because I was going to fix them. And I kind of knew deep down I wasn't going to fix anybody. Like I cannot fix anybody. I can be a guide. I can be a coach. I can be a cheerleader, you know, but people really need to be an active participant in that process. And so I made the decision about five or 6 years ago to kind of remove myself from that environment, from those expectations that people come in with, like, oh, this is going to be my guru, this is going to be the girl that's going to fix me, and really from the outset set that expectation that I'm not going to fix you. We are going to work together and you're going to be a part of this process. And you know what's so cool is that right now the people that come to me, maybe just because I have set that expectation and I'm very clear when I work with people that, you know, you're going to get excited. We're going to get you excited about living an optimally healthy life and feeling amazing and feeling energetic, or whatever their vision is for their optimal health, and then sort of enroll them in that vision and help them sort of take the next best step that's going to get them there.
That's really cool. And I can just see a million different directions that we could go in this conversation. And you and I both know that we can talk for hours. But the question I probably have most, and I'm sure that the question that a lot of people would have of you is, yeah, that's all great. And, you know, it's actually really inspiring that, you know, you had your own health crisis and really educated yourself, took responsibility, and made the changes in your life. However, you know, from the outset, as you said, like on the outside, you looked a picture of health. You've always been slim. You've always been athletic. You've always exercised. And sure, so it's just a few tweaks and changes to your diet, and, you know, voila, like you're living, walking, eating, breathing like this, you know, freedom lifestyle around your body. What about for the person who is a lot more dysfunctional in their relationship with exercise and food, maybe has quite a lot more weight that they'd like to shift? You know, how do you deal with those people? How do you help those people really create a change in their lives?
Yeah, so it's actually a funny question, because I can remember when I first started doing what I do now, and one of my friends he's like, you are the worst role model. You are the worst spokesperson for this, because if you would see a before picture and an after picture of me, I look practically the same.
Exactly.
And my response to that is actually, you know, my before and after picture, and sometimes in presentations I will be like, I'll talk about my transformation, and then afterwards I'll be like, and here's my before picture, and everyone's like,
what?
Same. Like, and what I really think is interesting about that is that even though I may look the same on the outside, it was like a total night and day kind of transformation for me in terms of the way that I feel on the inside. And so the way I look at it is that if someone does have 50, 60 pounds to lose, if somebody has been insulin resistant their whole life, maybe they have a chronic disease or something, there's just a bigger opportunity for them to transform. That's the way that I look at it. So the things we would actually do together aren't really that different than what I did for myself. Like I kind of talk about three main areas: eat, move, and sleep. I add a few as I go on, and as I learn about like working with people, and I learn what kind of the obstacles and the roadblocks are. So I would kind of add on stress management, or a relationship to stress. I would add mindset. I would add limiting beliefs. I would add a few little things. You know, when you ask people what they think is in their way, it's, oh, I don't have enough time. I don't have enough willpower. I don't have, you know, this and that and the other thing. But when I start working with people, it really is that they often have these what's in their way isn't always what it initially appears like on the surface.
Yeah.
And
which
so
is the beauty of coaching.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, I'm still working with people to make empowering food choices at mealtime. Like number one, that's usually my first line of defense with everybody, because what we eat is so incredibly linked to, our relationship with food, our hormones, our digestive health, all of those things, our gut permeability.
The entire body and the function of the body, right?
Yeah. So whether somebody has 50 pounds to lose or whether they just want to become faster in their 5K race.
Yeah.
I think their food choices are really, really pertinent and really important. And then next up, we're looking at, exercise. And a lot of what I do with people is looking at kind of, I guess what people think is that I don't exercise enough, but often they're exercising in the wrong intensity zone. So they're not getting the bang for their buck. So they're putting in the time, they're putting in the work, but they're not getting that return on investment that they would hope. So then they think they have to work harder or longer. And then that's discouraging, right? But it might be that, less really is more when it comes to exercise. So they're just making a few tweaks there. And then the sleep is just huge.
So important.
If you're not getting sleep, then anything you do in terms of changes to your diet and your exercise are probably going to be short-lived if you're not getting enough sleep. So
absolutely. So you and I, we're both coaches. We've both worked with people, obviously in slightly different capacities, but we both work with many people, and we would both acknowledge and agree that while the vast majority of people really love coaching and do get results and feel like they made a great investment in coaching, very few people create that real permanent shift that lasts well beyond the coaching relationship. So what I'm really interested to hear from you, observing, the people that get, good results and they're happy and they've had a great time in the coaching relationship versus those people that, just literally have completely transformed their lives and created exactly what they wanted out of the partnership. What is the difference? What creates real change and permanent change in people?
Well, I think that it really comes down to peeling back all the layers of that onion to really identify and clear the obstacles that were in the way for them. So of course, in coaching, like health coaching and what I do, we're trying to make changes on the behavioral level. So we're trying to make different choices in our life. I think that's really obvious to most people. What's less obvious is, maybe somewhere way back when in their life, they found comfort in eating ice cream when they were sad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it doesn't matter how much I tell them, eating ice cream late at night in front of the TV is probably not the most aligned with the health goals that you say you want. They're not going to make sustainable changes on the behavioral level until they can uncouple feeling sad with needing to eat ice cream.
Yes.
Because it's filling a void, right? So when you take it away and you say, why don't you eat this instead? Or why don't you journal instead or whatever, until there's a new pairing of what to do when you feel sad, then any type of behavior that you're trying to sustain on the behavioral level is not going to last until you can sort of get those emotional needs met in a different, more healthy way.
Yeah.
So,
because I think everyone knows, it's not rocket science, and it's not a surprise to anyone that, the more real food that they can get into their diet, the more nutrient dense the food is that they get into the diet, the better sleep that they have, the more water that they drink. It's all commonly accepted. Like, it may not be agreed upon across different paradigms of your health on what we should be eating. However, everyone acknowledges and agrees with that. And yet so many people have started and failed at eating plans, started and failed at, like, say, a fitness regime or whatever, and all the excuses come up. So how do you help your clients address those issues as and when they arise?
Yeah, no, that's a really, really good point. And so what I'm doing always as a coach is I'm listening. So it's probably the biggest gift that I can give to somebody is just active listening. And what I'm listening for is their story. So when they tell me why they don't have what they want in their life, I can really extract their story and a lot of their limiting beliefs from that story. And then we can address those limiting beliefs one at a time. So I think a lot of people really, especially if they've struggled for a long time in the area of health, maybe they've always been a bigger kid, or they never liked exercise, or they were always picked last for the team, then they probably have a limiting belief in there somewhere that there's something wrong with me. I'm not enough. I don't deserve this, and so then they will unconsciously, of course, sabotage in the area of their health to kind of validate that underlying story that I'm not enough or whatever it is. And so we really need to, so I'm listening for that, and I'm helping them. I'm kind of shining that spotlight on that story for them. And can you see how invested you are in this story, being healthy is hard, it's a struggle. Like those are kind of at the root, at the real center of the onion for that person. And so it's helping to kind of, I want to be mindful of pendulum swinging. Like you don't want to go from, like being healthy is hard all the way to, oh, this is a breeze and this comes to me naturally, because it's too much of a swing and your brain will be like, yeah, right. And it won't be able to latch on.
All those years of wiring in the subconscious, it's not gonna have a bar of it.
Yeah. So sort of helping them to kind of just move that pendulum a little bit over to something that could feel true to the brain, and then have them start to take actions on that and help them look for evidence for that, so that belief, they can sort of uncouple that belief and start to believe something that's more supportive of the end game that they're going for.
That's awesome.
That's one of the big things. And then, like I was mentioning before, I think that there's a lot of unresolved emotional stuff that a lot of us carry around, where food is a crutch, or over drinking, or buying stuff off the internet, or spending too much time on social media, or overworking. Like a lot of these kind of overing over are really just a symptom of some unresolved, like none of us like to feel bad, right? We all want to feel good, but when we have that sort of bad feeling inside, or we feel like we're not enough, or we feel stressed, or we feel frustrated or overwhelmed or anxious, or think about all of these things, we have ways that we cope with those feelings, and often they're not really in line with where most of us consciously want to go with our health. So I think
absolutely,
and a lot of, like I mentioned too, like a lot of that does start quite young. Many of us. So it's what I help people do is really go back to those younger parts of themselves, and as their present day self, and go back to that younger part of themselves to sort of tell them the things that they needed to hear, like it's not your fault. You're
supported.
Yeah. And so kind of developing a relationship with your younger self, which a lot of people don't expect a health coach would do.
No, they expect a meal plan and hey, be my cheerleader and help me eat really healthy and lose weight, or whatever it is that they want to do. So
exactly,
as you know, these interviews are designed, I'm interviewing women that I see to be living, walking, talking, breathing examples of the freedom lifestyle. And so for me, that includes physical freedom, which is what you specialize in, emotional freedom, which you've just said you also partly focus on and specialize in, and then the lifestyle freedom, finances and time, because what's the point if you haven't got enough time, or if you haven't got enough money in the bank to be able to go out and do what you love and really free yourself. So you're also a woman in progress, as am I. And so I want to turn the spotlight on you, and I want to ask you what it is that you personally still find a bit of a challenge, because obviously you've mastered the nutrition side of things and your fitness and your sleep, all of those things, because you walk your talk. Yep. And you're a great example to your clients. So what would be the area that you find the greatest challenge still to this day?
Great question.
I'm so mean. I just threw that on you.
Yeah. So I am a woman in progress. I do still struggle with certain things, and my old stories and my limiting beliefs are exposed in certain situations, and they typically revolve around feeling worthy. As I was saying, and asking for help. Like, that's a huge one for me when I sort of have this story that I should be able to, do it all myself, have it all together. And so obviously when you're a parent and a spouse and a business owner and, an athlete, and, you have to ask for help. And so I have old stories that come up when I need to ask for help around, like, being lazy or being undeserving, and I should be able to do it all by myself. And so I really have to lean in and sort of like, whose voice is that?
Is that actually true?
Is that actually true? Like, even putting my own beliefs up on the stand, because as I said, I do active listening for my clients, but sometimes I actually become my own client. And I say, if I were a client of mine, what would I tell them? And so I sort of do this sort of empty chair process where it's like, I'm the coach and I'm the client.
Cool. That's really cool.
Really put some of those stories like under, like up for testimony, up on the stand. And is that really true? And like, would I treat a friend this way? Or like, would I ever say that you're not deserving of something? Of course not, So that really helps me to be more objective instead of just being swept along the stream of sort of the old familiar way that I'm used to relating to things, and helps me to sort of find that courage to, ask for help. And then when I ask for help, I celebrate. Like, that's another big thing that I do with my clients. It's like praise and acknowledgement and celebration. Like, that's really what a lot of us are looking for from other people, but we can really give that to ourselves, and it feels really good. So it's sort of developing a better relationship with ourselves, I think. For me, is always the opportunity, opportunity for growth, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I've watched your journey, and, it's been really, really inspiring, how you've progressed, and, because people looking outside in, and we've had this discussion before, it all may seem pretty perfect. You've got a wonderful husband, you've got two gorgeous kids, one boy, one girl, like, how perfect. You're gorgeous, great body, fit, accomplished runner, like, it seems like you've got it all on the outside. And, I think it's really great to, understand that, at some level, we're all just exactly the same.
Oh yeah. And that's one thing that I am very upfront with, especially in kind of when I work with people like in small groups that are more intimate, is that I will actually be quite honest and vulnerable about the things that I'm finding challenging. And people are always just like, wow, like, when I'm vulnerable, when I'm honest, when I can share authentically like that and say, you know what, it's not all perfect.
No.
I have the same, like, underneath it all, we're all struggling with the same thing. And that's why when you can share like that, or when I share like that, I feel like it connects me closer with people, rather than, because who can relate to someone who's perfect?
No,
like,
exactly.
Think of someone in your own life that you perceive to be so perfect, then you don't feel comfortable around them.
And I think that that's probably one of the biggest issues that I see within the coaching and personal professional development industries is, you've got these people that are holding themselves up on a pedestal, trying to seem like they're the example that we all want to reach for, but actually that does both themselves and the people that they work with a disservice, because at the end of the day, we are all humans. Yes. We all have our stuff that we'll be working on for the rest of our lives. And I think that's really inspiring, that you show up in that way for your clients. So just quickly to wind up, you do one-on-one coaching, don't you? But you also have a group program. Maybe tell us a little bit about that, because if people want to connect with you, then they can find out the different levels that they can work with you at.
Yeah. So I think you're alluding to my membership community. Mm-hmm. So I have a membership community called Real Life Wellness, and I called it that because there's what we aspire to do, and then there's real life, right?
Yep.
So I really help people in that membership community. We take every month we focus on a different quality or a different challenge. So for example, this month we're really working on the behavioral level, like I was talking about, where people will do a little inventory of their self-care. So what they're eating and how they're showing up on the exercise front, and sleep and meditation and the way they talk to them, their internal self-talk, all of those things. They'll do a little quiz, and they'll see where the areas are that they need to work on. And then from there, they create a very, very simple, because I'm all about simple.
Absolutely.
So that people will actually do it, so you can build momentum and really start to create change. They're going to build a stop, start, change plan, meaning one thing they're going to stop, one thing they're going to start, one thing they're going to change or modify in the area of self-care. And then there's a tracking sheet and little tick boxes that they can record every day in July. Did they or did they not hold true to their own stop, start, change?
And that's so you having a little tick chart. I love it.
Oh yeah. And so we have a private Facebook group for that, and a monthly group coaching call where everybody in the membership community gets on the line, and they have an opportunity to ask me questions and be live coached on the air. Because I really find that that's the thing that we're all looking for, that community. We don't want to be told we're wrong. We don't want to be told here's the way you do it. We want that nurturing, compassionate tribe almost that can relate to what we're going through and cheer each other on. And people have really found themselves and found really good friendships within this membership community.
Amazing.
That is super, super fun. I'm digging that. So you can join at any time, leave at any time. It's called Real Life Wellness. So maybe we can put a little link if you have show notes or something here. So we can put a link to that. And then of course people can work with me one-on-one. So that's a little more, we can just cut right to the chase and what's in the way for you, and sort of remove some of those roadblocks. I typically work with people for 3 months minimum, because the people that can do it on their own will do it on their own.
Yes.
People that can't, they really need a little bit more support and accountability along the way. So I find 3 months is a nice time frame to really create some good shifts, and then they can sort of carry those on their own, or we can continue working together after that in sort of a less frequent fashion. So
fab. So just to wind up, in as shorter kind of paragraph as possible. Well, you're not writing, so a sentence, not paragraph. If I said to you, what is the most important thing? If someone feels trapped, if they feel kind of isolated, things aren't going their way, whether it is physical, whether it's financial, whether it's emotional. If I said, what is the most important thing for someone to do to really free themselves, what would you say in answer to that? It is a big question, but
So I think in one sentence, I would say there is nothing wrong with you. You are whole and complete, and you have all the inner resources available to you to make a change and to transform out of this. I really think that is kind of underlying everything. People often approach change, whether it's about their health or their relationships or their finances or their career, really from a place of I am broken and there's something wrong with me and I have to fix it. So they approach it like a fix it project.
Yeah.
And I really have noticed over the years that that doesn't work. When we approach change from a place of acceptance and from a place of self-love and from a place of peace, I find those changes are a lot easier to make on the outside. So again, probably not something you'd expect to hear from a health coach, because they'd say, oh, it's food, or oh, it's sleep, or oh, and all of those things are wonderfully important and really play into everything. But I think starting with yourself, that relationship with yourself, and really, you know, because when we're born, like look at your little girl, like we
and
know,
your two kids,
we know that there's nothing wrong with us. We know that we're loved. We know how to get our needs met.
Yes.
And then life happens, and somewhere along the line we learn that we're different, or there's something wrong with us, or that, you know, love is, or people abandon us, or the world is hard, or something happens along the way when we form these beliefs that sort of get us out of connection with ourselves and into really disconnection and fear, basically.
Absolutely. I mean, change your beliefs, change your life, for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me today, Carolyn. As always, amazing chatting with you. So, and if you want to reach out to Carolyn, please do. We're, you know, both part of the Women in Progress movement, and we're here to support you. So, thanks so much.
You're very welcome. My pleasure.